Ladies and gentlemen, our followers on all social media platforms, peace, mercy, and the blessings of God. This is Nur Al-Habsi, senior researcher and director of the Scientific Publishing Department at the Trends Research and Advisory. On behalf of Dr. Muhammad Al-Ali, the CEO of the Trends Research and Advisory, I welcome you all to this important lecture entitled Boko Haram and Security in the African Sahel, presented by a dear guest from a central country in the African continent, Nigeria, Dr. Al-Khidr Abdul Baqi Muhammad. For those who do not know who our honorable speaker is, he holds a PhD in international media and works as director of the Nigerian Center for Arab Research. He specializes in international media and is interested in the cultural relations between Arabs and Africans. He has delivered many lectures at a number of universities and intellectual and academic research centers in Arab and Western countries. He also has many studies and research that he presented through many conferences and scientific journals, the most important of which is the study of the repercussions of instability in the Sahel and Sahara regions on Chinese and international interests. Also, the study of extremist Islamic organizations in Africa, the controversy of the present and the best of the future, and the study of the Boko Haram between the political crisis and the politics of the crisis. Dr. Al-Khidr also published a study in the Trends Center entitled The African Sahel and Sahara Towards a Sustainable Security Perspective. Dr. Al-Khidr has received many awards, the most important of which are the Arabic Language Service Award and its issue from the Lisan al-Arab Association for the Care of Arabic Language of the League of Arab States and the Scientific Appreciation Award from the African Union. As for the topic of today's lecture, it is such a topic of a high degree of importance at the political, economic, and social levels. Boko Haram group is one of the groups whose presence has shaped a significant transformation in the political transformations in Nigeria in particular and the African continent in general, which was suffering from many problems and armed ethnic conflicts before terrorist extremist groups spread, including Boko Haram, which took advantage of those conditions to expand further within the continent, especially in Nigeria, Cameroon, and Chad. This turbulent environment provided the appropriate climate for the growth of the plant of extremism and terrorism, which pose a clear and a great threat to the cultural state, a central state in Africa. This requires also to deal seriously with this real threat for the security and stability of the African continent and to discuss ways to achieve stability in the region. Based on that comes this important lecture that will address a number of themes, the most important of which are the emergence of Boko Haram and its intellectual ideologies, religious violence in Nigeria and its relationship to Boko Haram, Boko Haram's ability to hold together after the killing of its leader, Abu Bakr Shekau, the regional and international dimensions for the Boko Haram phenomena and the repercussions of the French military withdrawal, and last but not least, the future of Boko Haram in light of the current indicators in the Nigerian political reality in particular and Africa in general. Now I give the floor to Dr. Al-Khidr Abdul Baqi to address his speech. Now the floor is yours, sir. In the name of Allah, thank God, blessings and peace of God be upon him. I would like to offer many thanks to Trends Research and Advisory and to Mr. Dr. Ali Al-Ali and for the CEO of the center and his staff working with him at such distinguished centers in the specializations of concerns. And I would like to thank you for offering me the invitation to be here to deliver my lecture to shed the light on again on the developments of this extremist group that made everybody worried about it, and for the countries and the neighboring countries as well, which is Boko Haram group. Boko Haram group, the main topics as Ms. Dr. Her Excellency, the presenter, I would like to thank her, and I would like also to greet her for the introduction, which I consider such a great introduction to myself. And the first topic is the emergence of Boko Haram. Boko Haram group is one of the groups that is considered one of the largest extremist groups that the African scene, the Western African scene has already known. Except for East Africa. East Africa, where there is the group, the Somal, the Al Shabaab in Somal. Boko Haram was founded. The emergence of, actually it was in 1995, but actually it wasn't that affiliation of the Boko Haram. It was named after the Muslim Shabab or youth organization before. And as you know, the African region or the academic scientific research centers have witnessed a lot of developments about the sectarian groups from Muslims as well as from Christians. And the Muslim Youth Organization was established in 1995, where thanks to the effort of Malam Lawal. He was a young man whose hands was established is established the region called in the east north of Ubi, the city of Ubi. After this group was established, it was just like a preaching group, just like addressing the activities of the young men and women. And in 2002, the group or the organization was regrouped or re-established under a new appellation by Muhammad Yusuf, who named after the emergence of this group in 2002. And then the foundation in official foundation of this group and its ideological shape where the group is emerging right now. And in 2002, Muhammad Yusuf named this group the Al Sunnah for the Sunnah people for propagation and the jihad. In 2002, Muhammad Yusuf named the Al Sunnah for jihad and the propagation group, and it took the mosque Ibn Taymiyyah mosque, the famous one in Maiduguri city, which represents the famous religious city and the religious city or capital of the Borno in Nigeria. In 2004, this group moved to talk about the relationship between Muslims and the state, and the relationship between the state, the Muslims, and the Christians, and the relationship between the Al-Sunnah people and those who do not belong to this religion. And the launch of the idea is just no for paganism. And in 2004, it took an angle side in Borno city, and that's why accordingly it emerged the idea, the house of belief and door of paganism. And it was not that a great new idea, but it was an old one. The state known for that was established in the beginning or the emergence of the 19th century or the 18th century by Bishop Bapluko. And after that, the group launched no, yes for belief and no for paganism. And they said that for those who do not believe in God or they do not believe in that creeds or ideologies of the group, they are just like ignorant people. And in 2006, there was some ongoing debates or skirmishes between the security people and the members of this extremist group. And in 2009, the armed confrontation between the Boko Haram group and between the Boko Haram and the state, the fierce confrontation ended with the killing of Muhammad Yusuf. These are the early emergence of the group. What are the pillars or the ideologies of this group, which made this group a new one with a new thing, a new idea of the or in the region, Nigerian society. The ideologies are they they are addressing or targeting establish a Muslim state. And as we know, there are a lot of states and a lot of ideologies in Nigeria. So the Sharia al-Islamiyya slogan in 2002 in 2000 was emerged. So with this ideology, the Boko Haram group has emerged, and and that's why it declared the establishment of a new Islamic state. This is the first corner of pillar, and the second ideology or pillar of this group is to fight the Western education. Fighting the Western education is almost is just like is considered just something like a pillar. Sorry for the interruption. And this pillar is through on which the global emergence of the group, which is to fight the Western education in general. Western education in general, which represents all cultures, languages, and ideologies. The third pillar is to ban working in the governmental working place and in the state pillar entities. And the fourth pillar is to establish an Islamic state, which and the group does not have to do anything with the Shia or the revolutionary thinking of the Shia, but they were inspired by the idea of establishing the Islamic states. These are the key or the pillars or principles of this group. Of course, why Boko Haram is fighting under the slogan of Western education. In simple, the Boko Haram is split into two things. Boko is the first part. Boko Haram, Haram is an Arabic word, and Boko is extracted from Boko in English, which means because education is just for us is a Western origin, and that and thus they added the two words. Boko Haram means the Western education is haram. So whatever comes for Western education is Boko, which means is something which is unreligious. How, why this ideology of the Boko Haram was established, and they instilled this ideology for the for the African community and the Nigerian communities in general. Of course, this idea was ideologically established by confronting the Western education that the overwhelming corruption in the Nigerian community, as well as the promises or commitments or promises that were kept by the politicians and the candidates on themselves before they have been voted for them. All such promises have been broken and were not committed. And this corruption has been overwhelming, was based on the cultural background for all what have ruled, governed us, whether Muslims or Christians or ethnic or whichever. They said that they belong to the Western education teacher. That's why the Boko Haram group has launched this slogan of this slogan, which is just alarming or sounding a slogan that can be popular to the community between the people. So now that the Western education background, which is corrupting people, which is making people famine, which is making famine, and that's why it took the Western education as something which is unreligious. So in the north of Nigeria, the Quran the teaching or the Arabic teaching is a widespread one, which is a popularity. So this discourse is acceptable and such a good ground in the north in the north of the country, and that's why it could achieve a popular, such a big popularity and the ground by this discourse, and that's why a lot of people have joined them. But in the beginning, we have to take into consideration that they were not confronting for aggression or violence. They were calling for Islamic education, justice, and equality, transparency, integrity, and equality. Everybody should have an equal share of the country's so this course can 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 this slogan or this discourse has achieved for the group a lot of big ground for popularity. However, the the idea on which the idea of Boko Haram was based, which is just like fighting the Western education. This idea or this thought is not a new one, because people at the north of Nigeria do not welcome the Western education in general. However, they have reservations on the Western education because it it does not go cope with the Islamic trends. So this course and the ground where Boko Haram group was launched, it was not a new one, but the new was that Boko Haram is just the political employment of, or what we call, what the Islamic the political Islamic can depend on, but so that they can be accepted by people and they have popularity to gain popularity and to accept the views. And they found in this trend or this direction their way. And that's why it's not a new discourse. And I repeat this one. The second thing, that there is just like a sense of discontent among the Muslim Africans in the northern of the country, and the minority Christians, which dominated the region from the Western culture. So though they are addressing the dire wish or willingness, and in the north of the countries against the minority of the Christians who tended to like the Western regime, or who have passion for the positions. That's why they have addressed this slogan for that the Western education should they have addressed the slogan that Western education is not accepted, and we have to go back to our origins of the Islamic State. The second thing, and how to market the which Boko Haram group has based on, it just like to approach the politicians, and they existing themselves as they can be supportive to gain votes, and that's why there there was between Muhammad bin Yusuf and Yasser bin Yakin what we call the precedents, like a gap between the electoral or election times, and there were commitments and promises between both parties, and the politicians or the candidates who obeyed the Boko Haram group have won, or the propagation group or the Al Sunnah group. They were not called Boko Haram. They were called Ahl al Sunnah for propagation and jihad, and they based on, they did not have such a big ground for even their scientific and academic lectures were attended by ten thousands of people. So there was something like a willingness or a wish or to gain all the votes for this group, and they stopped. They determined some ideas, and they said that the representative of this group will be a portfolio of the ministerial portfolios at that time. Then, after the ruler has taken over, there were promises, not unkept promises, and Hence, the problem has emerged between the Boko Haram group and the authority in the Borno state. That was the very beginning of the emergence of the Boko Haram. Boko Haram did not ask for or approach violence because they approached the negotiations at first, or in other words, they just the spoiled son of the authority, just like a marriage of convenience between both sides. And the government or the governor in particular was not comfortable towards the discourse which Boko Haram group has adopted to just like to make the public opinion against them, and that from here the Boko Haram has been involved in confrontation with the governors and with the political leaders. Afterwards, the situation developed to a confrontation, public confrontation with the state organizations as well as the state itself. That was the relationship between the central government in Nigeria and the state. The state government has its own authority. So the central authority has has issued a decree that Boko Haram or the Ahlul Sunnah in the previous, that is an extremist and terrorist group. And thus, the Boko Haram group has started an open confrontation with the state, with authorities, and with the central authority. I think the first emergence of the confrontation between the state and the Boko Haram group, and also I would like to move also to talk about another topic about violence, the sectarian violence and violence in Nigeria in general. Nigeria has a history or a background of between the followers of sectarian groups, Muslims and Christians, except for the Boko Haram group, because the Muslims are the majority of members, and the Christians they are not a minority. They might be equal in numbers, but the minority also have the ethnic which has a limited number. Boko Haram group has taken the way the government, the state dealt with to be neutral if for the sectarian involvements, for any religious group or any confrontation will result in an open conference between the followers of the other sectarian groups. So the country should take into consideration all the people belonging to the sectarian groups, and that's why the state was a little bit reluctant to deal with the Boko Haram, but they have dealt with them in intelligence confrontations. That's how the policy or the politics way, because they were reluctant to explode any open confrontation between the sectarian groups. The second thing which made the religious violence or aggression, that Muslims and the northern country have a sense of discontent because of the existence of the minority Christians among them, and however in some areas which claim who claim they are the original residents of the same areas. These backgrounds in the heritage books of our scientists at the north countries, who are not comfortable to the existence of the north, the minority Christians, and they call for the clearly of confrontation with the Christian side. All such aspects and sides have the background of the sectarian violence in the north of the countries, and that's why Boko Haram group has used all the such backgrounds, and the state and the security bodies are not qualified enough to confront for the skirmishes, because give the floor to the Islamic group to say that we have the upper edge now. the ethical thing, which encourages the sectarian violence, that the official discourse between the political of the religious Islamic groups was not active enough, and thus we can hear between now and then that skirmishes between Muslims and the Christians in the north of Nigeria. Even it's in the south, but there are a few, maybe because for other factors, because of the population composition between the Muslims and the Christians. This is the background which Boko Haram has invested in just waging and rising the aggression, and to uphold its emergence before it's detected and to the people, to the public. And the third, one more point, Boko Haram, and what are the bets or the indicators that made Boko Haram has the sustainable continuity for a period of time, which now we are just like we are talking about the second decade, like 15 years, for 15 years, and the country, the state has been struggling and fighting the Boko Haram group. What are the factors that have given the Boko Haram this sustainability or this continuity or this type, which gave them the uphold or to keep togetherness to confront or to the Nigerian state? First of all, the Boko Haram group in the beginning, they had a program. They have a program. Boko Haram group, contrary to some other extremist group organization, could establish their solidarity. They could overcome the internal split after 2016, when the president, this group has elected a president, and Abu Bakr Shikau has committed suicide, and to Abu Bakr al-Mus'ab to take over. So the Boko Haram could uphold together in front of the others. So the Boko Haram group could stand fast in front of the other confrontation side. And to this point, I can remember the area, the northeastern of Nigeria, where they are concentrated, and this area is a little far away from Lagos, about 1,500 kilometers, and the trip by air takes like 2 hours, and thus it's such a far in distance, a remote area. It's far away from the Sokoto, so it's far away from Minnesota. The second point is after the organizational steadfastness, and to keep it hold and continue to for a long time, the exploitation of these hard geographical parameters of the country, because they took the Sahara and the Sahel lands, and as well as the places where there are harder terrains of the country they could exploit. For it's very hard to reach for those who do not belong to this area. That was in the past. So they have settled in an area where the army forces could not reach because of the hard terrains. So such areas just turn to be like hot spots for these groups to shed wars or attacks or raids at the same time. And in the meantime, to human losses. So the Boko Haram has confronted the civilian people. The third thing which helped the Boko Haram group to steadfast is just the ability to attract and to recruit members of the young people from the North countries through the discourse that I mentioned about, which is the ideological as well as the religious discourse, because the religious Quran discourse which can attract anyone in the north of the Nigeria because of the heritage background for this area. The second thing and also in this context of the religious discourse, to market on the Jannah or the heaven, for the jihad, to market, to make propaganda or marketing for such things. So this is the content of the discourse: how the Boko Haram group can market and for these teachings and recruit its members in this context. And you know that the north of Nigeria is known, is called Sons of Manjri. Sons of Manjri can be like named in just like Sons of the Streets, who just walks in tents in the streets reading Quran, and they vow loyalty to the group. So it's just like a catch for the Boko group, because these people, these young men do not have such a highly cultured, they are not that highly cultured people, they are poor, and they just have a background of the Quran. So they ask them to come for Quran, for the heaven. Also, for the solidarity of the organization. Also to get the local support. The local support, how Boko Haram group could get the support, the local support they could. Boko Haram could recruit branches and armies for it inside the social leaderships existing in the area, and accordingly, if there is any an attempt of any security threat, the local support, and social support can gain some intelligence for the group to alert them, and also the non-criminalization, absolute criminalization of the local authorities for Boko Haram, because Boko Haram would market in its discourse to the local elements that they are coming just for their own interests, for their victories. So this discourse 5 years ago has been acceptable, and this discourse has been a magic to some local members of the people of the area. That's why all such elements and factors could gain the support, and the local support, the hard terrains, the religious discourse, and the local support, or recruiting, or employing, or some cadres or some clients of this area by marketing that Boko Haram will be victory. Doctor, you have only 5 minutes. What is related to, in relation of the Boko Haram and the international and regional dimensions? That's not clear. It's quite clear that for the regional benefits and privileges for this group are linked to answer that I will answer to one of the points in this, how Boko Haram could reach to the neighboring states. Simply, Boko Haram could reach to the neighboring states by or through investing Boko Haram of the local support that I have already mentioned. The north area of the country, which characterized by its extensions of some tribal extensions in some other neighboring countries. So, for example, there are some tribes, Zagronek in Niger, and the borders are open between Niger and Nigeria, and moving from one country to another country is such an easy, just by just emerging the idea, because it's an open border, and they have common families. These are the investments which Boko Haram could utilize to relay and to instill their wings and branches to the neighboring countries. So what happened in Niger, as well as in Chad? The eastern northern of Nigeria is just like, and they have borders of Niger and Chad. So through these extension, the geographical extension between the Boko Haram could facilitate moving their ideas to the, and also the its members could move from one country to another of the countries that we have mentioned about, because the borders are not limited, they are open, and they can move anywhere. And as we said, it's just like a soft border. And as for the regional dimensions, and through these regional dimensions, the big states have felt that they are just like international summits that the French president has been called, and where 5 countries have been also taken, like Nigeria, Chad, Cameroon, Niger, and as well as Mali have been invited to this conference to call for confrontation and to face Boko Haram. At such a summit, there was just a joint army has been agreed upon, and the Al Sahel area have agreed to support each other in confronting this Boko Haram group. And the great power has decreed by the UN that Boko Haram group to be categorized or classified as a terrorist or extremist group, and which requires a quick intervention of the Boko Haram. There are projects and intervention, like there is a relationship between intervention and close communication between this group and its partners in Mali and the neighboring countries in Niger, and as well as in Chad. The France operation the operation being conducted in the north of Mali is not far away from the ongoing situation now. So this operation targets all the terrorist groups and forces in the Al Sahel region and countries, which has joined the West. So it's a joint operation now, and recently or lately, it was just withdrawal of France have been from the north of Mali, and the repercussions of such withdrawal on the peacekeeping operations and confronting the Al Jihad or the extremist or terrorist groups have been drawn. Let me say that the French existence they are existing in Niger, Mali. They are existing in Burkina Faso. They are already because they are their colonies. The French troops are existing in these countries, and also they are existing in Nigeria. I can't. It's so quite clear that Boko Haram and fighting the terrorist group has been just like as a cover for a military trend to the African countries, including Nigeria. So if Nigeria has been involved in the Western pressures, like the Nigeria, the biggest African countries, contracting since 2007 with the U.S. But when Boko Haram was opposing the U.S. intervention, but after the emergence of the Boko Haram, they have to adhere to the existing situation. So a lot of troops are inside the African countries. France, China offered, Israel also offered, as well as some other countries offered to help in confronting or fighting the Boko Haram as well as the terrorist groups. This is the excuse of the emergence of these groups, of these forces, to fight the future of Boko Haram. Now, I did not address the Boko Haram or have been involved or just faced by the subsequent governments. Boko Haram could not have sustained or continued to this till now, unless we have just like something is not spoken about. So the governments are speechless. They are motionless. They have just like twisted arms. Inside the government, the African governments, some of which exploit the emergence of the terrorist groups, including Boko Haram in the North Mali, just like as an excuse or just like an allegation for their existence, for the future, for withdrawal of the Boko Haram from the Boko Haram. That Mali now is in Osway to for stability, if we can say, or a political independence. However, France will not withdraw from the northern country, and it's something known for its people, for the politician, and also France does not withdraw, or as for also the the big states, the big countries will not withdraw from Nigeria. But there is a big popularity to, but it's just something like a deal or a win-win situation between the governing authorities and the foreign states. Boko Haram has been and has become lately to a thinking, not to a group. Boko Haram does not have more than 5,000 members, but why did they sustain or continue till now? Because of the factors that I have mentioned in the internal file of the military or the political file, which is people do not want to talk about it, do not want to address it. All such things are the one to determine the future of Boko Haram, or to demolish or terminate terminate Boko Haram of the military intervention. Boko Haram will exist because it's a card that gains money or profits to the other different authorities. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Khidr, for this informative lecture. And now we will open the door for the Q's and A's, which we have received the question from the social media and through the email, and we will try to answer some of these questions in short. The first question, it's known that Boko Haram just has vowed for Daesh, and they nominated themselves. They nominated themselves to be the leader of the North Africans. Will they continue just like as for Boko Haram vowing for Daesh? You know that the religious course has a lot of dimensions, because it's just something like to impose a psychological pressure on the authorities in Nigeria, or the governing authority. The Boko Haram organization is a separate one, and they have their own ideology and separation. However, Boko Haram and the Daesh have their common interests or common ideas. However, there are some details which are quite different. Boko Haram is limited in its military operation. They do not target civilians. They do not target innocent people, unless in exceptional situations. And it 2017, where there were some signs that negotiations have been ongoing between some members. The second question: what are, in your opinion, the reasons, in your opinion, that just made the Nigerian government to provide opportunities and to tackle terrorism? And how can you assess the response of the government to respond to this movement till now? It's such a good question, which but since we are running out of time, the response of the government, in Nigeria to the challenges of Boko Haram are relevant, and the governments are varied. Since 2010 or 2007 till date, we have different presidents, and each president has its own strategy, its own culture, perspective. However, there are something that we can say that some governments have been serious enough to deal or to handle this. This is what I was talking about, the unspoken about, which took the Boko Haram file as just something to make money, to earn prestige, because they have gained, which spent a lot of the country the resources. We have also President Muhammad Buhari. We have at that time some seriousness and also confrontation. We could found some. They have moved units of the Ministry of Defense in Nigeria to confront. Also, they moved the troops to confront or to face in the field. But the response is relevant or is valid from one government to another. So, but what governs the work in the field is the outcomes or the results, the outcomes resulting in such policies. However, but for the President Muhammad Buhari, honestly, his policy is characterized by seriousness and honesty. And there are actually an attempted actual confrontation to fight Boko Haram. However, they are not sufficient. Boko Haram, the unseen or the invisible Boko Haram, is the actual threat which turned Boko Haram members at the group. They have turned them to an idea or to a thinking where some other people or some other authorities might make benefit from. The international response and also the international support, which could play an important role in expanding the domination, the predominance of this group. What are the obstacles? What are the obstacles and success? You mean the response of the international forces? Or the international forces have responded based on, according to their interests. France offered and sent their troops, and the US, China, and the other countries have offered, and Europe in general have offered help. Germany, UK, which invaded Nigeria for a long time, but based or in light of their own interests in the area or in the region. But it's quite clear that we have drank a lot, we have suffered a lot from these from the promises of that have been given to support the Nigerian government with Nigeria are just they are not promises. They have just like interests. It's just like it's a win-win. It's a win-win situation. Nigeria has already waived a lot of their rights, and Nigeria was the biggest country opposing the existence of the U.S. troops. But however, they have adhered to the existence of the U.S. because of the economic. Nigeria has also adhered to Europe, to France interests, as well as the special or the private issues of the administrations of the subsequent or consecutive governments of the presidency, because 5 years of gelatin president and Bukhari, the President Bukhari now, and 4 more years will be also elected for president. So the clear response by Bukhari president is quite well appreciated by everybody. However, the slow and the suspicious response by the previous ones are quite clear. So it's just like it's something like a deal between the interests of the Western countries. And we don't blame the Western countries because they have their own interests. Also, last question, Doctor. What are the most important features of the Boko Haram to the other groups, especially Al-Qaeda? Al-Qaeda is the first one that was founded, is the oldest terrorist and extremist groups in the region. Al-Qaeda is the one who opened the door for al-jihad idea, and also for the retaliation. And Al-Qaeda, it's such a good word, but how? But it's a good word, but under what slogan and what way? And they dismantled the relationship, the complex relationships between the Al-Qaeda is existing, has been existing, and they are existing at the moment. However, they have been reduced a little bit, and their activities also have been dimensioned a lot. And at the local industry or the local in the local the local version have been the local version have been dominated. However, the emergence there is emergence or collaboration, and they have the Boko Haram have been copying the jihad. There are strong indicators. There have been indicators also that Boko Haram have been initiated from the ideas, and there are also some camps in North Africans or North Nigeria in general. There are also some relationships, supportive relationships between from the Al Qaeda organization. It's well known, but but now Boko Haram is the new trend or the contemporary trend where through which all young men will be attracted. However, Boko Haram, the intentions now have been clear, and it's have been defeated ideas, and it's clear in public. However, the reasons for their emergence have been still existing, and just like the unemployment or job seekers or people that can be easily attracted. These phenomena are still existing in the northern countries, in the cities. Also, the struggle between the Islamic sectarian groups, Sunni and the Salafi Shia, and the Sunni Salafi and the Sunni Sufi, all these ground that has led to the emergence of Boko Haram were not found, and also the political Islamic organization have been who employ their religious ideological, and they exploit them into their political interests. All such things are so the efforts should be exerted with the countries that call for confrontation or honest confrontation. There should be a serious and willingness to combat all such phenomena honestly and seriously. If we do not handle realistically the extremism discourse by the other religious, the official and the unofficial religious entities, because we are all in the same boat, and the terrorism and extremism phenomenon and the ethnic groups that we are living now, and they will be also enriched in the presence of this phenomenon, but with varied ratios. What is the solution? That we have to go back to ourselves. No exception. Exception is one of the most important reasons that led to extremism and terrorism. And also, the heritage requires also to review, to make a balanced review, not a shallow revision. Not all what we have in the heritage is holy, or cannot. Not all what we have in the heritage can be demolished or to be adopted. All such things should be there should be an awareness raised, and to also to have just like an objective objective methodology, so that we can make a balanced ideology and discourse which does not contradict the original background, that does not conflict with the consonants and the heritage. Dr. Al-Khidr Abdul Baqi, the director of the Nigerian Center for Arab Researches, for this informative and valuable lecture. And we also thank our followers, also looking forward to. Thank you for hosting us, and looking forward to seeing you in the further events. Thank you.